A barn, a joke, and a heart unbroken. In the boarding house kitchen, the air hung heavy with the bitter scent of burnt coffee and the sharp edge of gossip. 7 girls clustered around a rickety table, their giggles slicing through the room like a poorly aimed blade. Tacked to the wall was a notice, its edges curling, Luke Grayson's ranch. Help wanted. Barn cleaning. Fair pay. Fair pay, one girl snorted, her voice dripping with mockery, for working under that devil. Another leaned in, her whisper sharp. He threw a bucket at the last boy who worked for him. Fired 3 men in 1 week. A third chimed in, her tone low and venomous. My brother said his temper's like a rattlesnake. Everyone in Dusty Creek knew the stories. Luke Grayson, the angry rancher, lived alone on the town's edge, working his land like a man possessed, speaking only when he had to. Nobody crossed him. Nobody wanted to. And now, he needed help. Who's full enough to take that job? One girl asked, her words cutting through the chatter. The room fell silent, heavy with anticipation. Slowly, all eyes turned to the corner. Abigail sat hunched on a stool, her hands moving with quiet precision, mending a torn apron. She didn't look up. She'd learned long ago to avoid their gazes. Abigail, one girl called, her voice too sweet, like poisoned honey. Abigail's hand stilled. Her stomach tightened. You're not doing anything tomorrow, are you? Abigail shook her head slowly, dread pooling in her chest. The girl stood, ripping the notice from the wall with a flourish. Perfect. You'll go clean the rancher's barn. Abigail's throat closed. I can't, she stammered. Why not? The girl shot back, her smile cruel. You clean here, don't you? But they say he's mean. The room erupted in laughter. So what? Another girl added, circling closer like a vulture. You're used to mean, aren't you? Besides, you're built for heavy work, aren't you? All that lifting, all that bending. More laughter, sharp and relentless. Look at her, someone whispered, loud enough for all to hear. She can barely fit through the doorway. Imagine her trying to squeeze into that barn. Maybe she gets stuck. Luke Grayson will have to butter the frame to get her out. The room roared. Abigail's cheeks burned, her hands trembling as she stitched faster, harder, trying to vanish into the fabric. It settled, then, the first girl declared, tossing the notice onto Abigail's lap. You leave at dawn. Don't be late, and don't come back until the joke's done. Another added, if he throws you out, that's your problem. Abigail opened her mouth to protest, but no words came, just the stutter that trapped her when fear took hold. The girls turned away, already chasing the next bit of gossip, the next cruel jest. Alone in the corner, Abigail's shaking hands crumpled the notice. She wanted to refuse, to say no, to stand and walk out. But where would she go? No family, no money, the boarding house was all she had. If the matron found out she'd refused work, she'd be cast out by nightfall. So, she folded the notice, tucked it into her pocket, and climbed the narrow attic stairs to her thin mattress. That night, she lay awake, staring at the wooden beams above. The girl's words echoed, built for heavy work. Can't even fit through a doorway. She'll break his floorboards. Each phrase cut deeper than any blade. Pressing her hands to her chest, feeling her breath rise and fall, she whispered into the dark, why was I made this way? The only answer was the wind rattling the shutters. Dawn broke cold and grey. Abigail dressed in her oldest work dress, tied her hair with a fraying ribbon, and slipped out before the others woke. The hour-long walk to Luke Grayson's ranch left her feet aching, her dress clinging in all the wrong places. Sweat dampening her collar despite the chill. The ranch loomed larger than she'd imagined, fences stretching into the hills, horses grazing in distant pastures, and at its heart, a weathered barn, its doors gaping like an open mouth. Her stomach twisted. Then, a crash, a loud, sharp, followed by a furious voice, damn useless piece of, another crash. Abigail froze at the gate, gripping the wooden post. Through the barn door, she saw him, Luke Grayson, massive, broad-shouldered, sleeves rolled up, muscles taut as he hurled a broken wagon wheel against the wall. It splintered into pieces. His chest heaved, fists clenched, jaw tight enough to crack stone. This was the man they'd sent her to, the angry rancher, the devil with a temper. She wanted to run, to disappear into the hills. But then his eyes locked on hers, dark, hard, unreadable. For a long moment, neither moved. "What are you doing here?" His voice was low, rough. Abigail's words tangled. I was sent to clean the barn." His eyes narrowed. "Sent by who?" "All the boarding house. They said you needed help." Luke stared, his jaw working, tension rippling through his shoulders. Then, a bitter laugh, short and sharp. "They sent you?" Not a question, a realization. Abigail's cheeks burned. She knew what he saw, fat, clumsy, powerless, a joke. He ran a hand through his hair and turned away. "Go home." "What?" "I said go home. I don't need help from someone they sent as a prank." Her chest tightened. She should thank him and leave. But the boarding house, the laughter, the matron's warning, no work, no bed, flashed through her mind. Her voice came out stronger than she expected. "I need the work." Luke stopped, turning slowly to face her. "You need it," he repeated. "Yes." He studied her, then pointed to a broom against the barn wall. "Fine. You want to work? Work. Don't talk. Don't complain. Stay out of my way." Abigail nodded, heart pounding. Luke stalked back to the broken wagon, his boots heavy on the dirt. For the first time, she didn't run from the anger. She stood in it. The barn was chaos. Dust hung thick, clinging to every surface. Hay lay scattered, as if flung in rage. Broken tools slumped against walls, a saddle overturned in a corner, its leather cracked and neglected. Abigail gripped the broom and began sweeping. Her arms ached within minutes. Dust made her cough. Sweat beaded on her forehead. But she didn't stop. Outside, Luke hammered fence posts with brutal force, each strike echoing like gunfire. His anger pulsed in every blow, sharp, relentless. Hours passed. The sun climbed. Abigail's dress clung to her back, her hands blistered around the broom handle. Yet, slowly, the barn transformed. The floor cleared, hay stacked neatly, tools organized. She worked in silence, invisible, unheard, the way she'd learned to survive. Midday came and went. Luke hadn't spoken once. Pausing to catch her breath, Abigail leaned against a beam, her stomach growling. She'd skipped breakfast, too afraid to face the girls. "You missed a spot." She jumped, nearly dropping the broom. Luke stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the sun, his face unreadable. He pointed to a corner where straw still scattered. "Sorry," she stammered, cheeks burning. "Fix it." He watched her sweep it clean, then walk back outside. She'd expected cruelty, expected him to throw her out as the girls predicted. But he hadn't. Strict, cold, but not cruel, just angry at the world. By late afternoon, the main floor gleamed. Her body screamed for rest, legs trembling, but she climbed the ladder to the loft, sweeping dust from the rafters. Footsteps echoed below. Luke stood at the ladder's base, holding a tin cup. "Come down." Abigail descended, legs shaking on each rung. He held out the cup. "Drink. Water. Cool and clear." She stared, then at him. I don't want to bother you." "You're no good to me if you collapse," he said, his voice gruff but softer, just slightly. She took the cup, hands trembling, and drank. The water was sweeter than anything she'd tasted in days. "Thank you," she whispered. Luke grunted and returned to the fence line. For the first time, her chest didn't feel so tight. As the sun set, painting the sky in orange and deep purple, Abigail finished the loft. Her body ached in places she didn't know could ache, but the barn sparkled, every corner swept, every tool in place. Standing in the doorway, she felt something rare, pride. Luke appeared from the pasture, leading a horse by the reins. He tied it to a post, then glanced into the barn. His eye swept the clean floor, the neat hay, the organized tools. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, quietly, "You're still here. You said to work." "So I worked." His jaw tightened. He stepped inside, running a hand along the wall. His fingers came away clean. "The girls at the boarding house," he said slowly, "they sent you here to fail." Abigail's throat tightened. She nodded. "Why'd you stay?" I needed the work." A pause. "That all?" Softly, she said, "I wanted to prove them wrong." Luke studied her. For the first time, his expression wasn't hard, something like understanding flickered in his eyes. "You did good work today," he said. The words hit like a physical blow. Her eyes stung, tears threatening to spill. "Thank you," she whispered, blinking fast. He nodded once, then paused at the door. "Be back at dawn. There's more to do." Her breath caught. You want me to come back?" He looked over his shoulder. "You want the work or not?" "Yes. Yes, I do." He disappeared inside. The walk back to the boarding house felt lighter. In the kitchen, the girls laughed over supper. Well, one called. "The joke's back." "How long did you last?" "An hour?" "Did he throw a bucket at you?" Bet she couldn't even fit through the barn door. Abigail passed them without a word, climbing to the attic. She washed her face, lay on her mattress, and let them laugh. Tomorrow, she'd be back at the ranch. And the day after, because Luke Grayson hadn't laughed. He'd given her water. He'd said she'd done good work. In a world that tore her down, those small kindnesses were the first stones of a bridge she didn't know she could cross. She closed her eyes and whispered into the dark, "Thank you." Not to the girls, not the matron, but to the angry rancher who'd let her prove she was more than a joke. Across town, in a house built by rough hands and guarded by silence, Luke sat by his fireplace, staring into the flames. For the first time in years, the barn was clean. For the first time, someone worked without complaint. For the first time, the silence in his house didn't feel so heavy. He thought of the girl with the stutter, the trembling hands, sent as a joke but staying anyway. Something buried deep, after his father's fists, his mother's silence, stirred. Not love, not yet, but recognition. She knew endurance. Maybe, just maybe, she was stronger than anyone, including herself, gave her credit for. Dawn came soft and golden. Abigail arrived before the sun cleared the hills, ignoring her aching body. Luke was chopping wood, his shirt damp with sweat, each axe swing precise but simmering with that ever-present anger. "You're early," he said without looking up. I didn't want to be late." He buried the axe in the stump and turned. "Barn needs mucking today. Stalls haven't been cleaned in a week." She nodded. "I can do that." He pointed to gloves by the barn door. "Use those. Work will tear your hands up otherwise." Surprised by the gesture, she took them. The stalls were filthy, the smell turning her stomach. But Abigail worked steadily, pitchfork in hand, moving manure, hauling it to the compost pile. Luke repaired a fence nearby, muttering curses when a board wouldn't fit. But he didn't throw anything today. By mid-morning, 3 stalls were clean. Abigail paused, leaning on the pitchfork, sweat dripping down her neck. Then, voices, female, laughing. Her stomach dropped. Peering out, she saw 4 girls from the boarding house at the gate, whispering and giggling. "Look at her," one said loudly. "Covered in filth. Smells worse than the horses. Bet she loves rolling in the muck where she belongs." Abigail stepped back into the barn shadows, chest tight. They'd come to watch her fail. Luke's voice cut through like a whip. You girls got business here. The laughter stopped. Just checking on our friend, one called sweetly. Your friend's working. You're distracting her. We'll leave when we're ready. Luke set down his hammer, walking to the gate slowly, deliberately. The girl shifted uncomfortably. I said, his voice low, dangerous, you're distracting her. Leave now. One opened her mouth to argue. His glare silenced her. They turned and left, whispering furiously. Abigail stood frozen, hands shaking. He'd stood up for her again. That afternoon, Luke asked her to help stack hay bales in the loft. The bales were heavier than they looked, and her first attempt to lift one barely budged. Her face flushed with effort. Footsteps climbed the ladder. Luke appeared, his broad frame filling the loft. Here, he said, reaching past her to grip the bale. We'll do it together. Their hands touched briefly, a spark igniting in Abigail. His hands were rough, scarred, strong, but gentle. They lifted bale after bale, shoulders brushing, hands touching again and again. Neither pulled away. When the last bale was stacked, Luke wiped his forehead. You're stronger than you look, he said quietly. Her breath caught. I'm not that strong. You've worked 3 days straight without complaint. That's stronger than most men I've hired. He sat on a bale, shoulders sagging, not angry, just tired. My father, he said suddenly, used to say work was all that mattered. Didn't matter if you were bleeding, sick. You worked, or you were worthless. Beat me if I didn't finish by sundown. Said I'd never be more than dirt under his boots. Abigail sat across from him. That's cruel. He was cruel. Luke's jaw tightened. I survived him. But the anger never left. Silence fell. Then Abigail spoke softly. The girls at the boarding house, they've mocked me since I arrived. Called me worthless, ugly, a burden. I started to believe them. Luke looked at her, really looked. You're not worthless. The words cracked something inside her. Tears spilled. He stood, crossed the space, and offered his hand. Come on, day's not over. She took it, feeling seen for the first time. Word spread fast in Dusty Creek. By week's end, the saloon buzzed. Men leaned over tables, whiskey in hand, mocking. Grayson's keeping the joke girl. Maybe he's gone soft. Or blind. Bet she's warming his bed. Laughter erupted, cruel, loud. Tom Hadley, a rancher, slammed his glass down. Someone ought to ride out there. See what's going on. 3 others agreed. By sunset, 4 men on horseback approached the ranch. Abigail was sweeping the porch when hooves sounded. Her stomach dropped. Trouble. The men reined in, grinning. Well, Tom called. Heard Grayson's got a new maid. Another laughed. Maid? More like a circus act. How much is he paying you, sweetheart? By the pound. The laughter cut like knives. Abigail's hands trembled. She wanted to hide, but the door opened. Luke stepped out, silent, towering, eyes locked on the men. You boys lost? His voice was low, dangerous. Tom grinned. Just checking on you, Grayson. Heard you kept the joke the boarding house sent. Luke descended the steps slowly. What I do on my land is none of your concern. Just seems strange, another said. Turning down good workers, then keeping her. She works harder than any man you've got, Luke said. Tom laughed. Come on, Luke. Look at her. I don't expect you to believe anything. I expect you to get off my property. The air grew taut. Tom stared, then spat into the dirt. Your funeral. The men rode off, laughter echoing. Abigail stood frozen, tears streaming. Luke climbed the steps. You all right? She nodded, tears falling. For a moment, they stood in silence. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "Yes, I did. They'll talk. Say terrible things about you now." He shrugged. "Let them. I stopped caring what this town thought a long time ago. Why do you care what they say about me?" His expression softened. "Because you deserve better than their cruelty." The word shattered her. She'd spent her life believing she deserved the mockery, the shame. But Luke Grayson, the man everyone feared, said she deserved better. And she believed him. Inside, Luke poured her water and sat across from her. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. "They're not going to stop. The town, the girls, they'll keep talking. It'll get worse before it gets better." "I know," she whispered. "If you want to leave, I'll pay you for your work. No hard feelings." Her heart pounded. She looked at the rough table, the simple cabin, the man who'd given her respect. "I don't want to leave." His eyes searched hers. "You sure?" "Yes." A faint smile tugged at his mouth. "Good. Because I wasn't ready to let you go." The words carried weight neither was ready to name. Something had shifted. This wasn't just work anymore. Two people, broken by cruelty, had found something unbreakable in each other. The next morning was too quiet. Abigail woke in the small room Luke had given her, sunlight streaming through the window. For a moment, she forgot, then remembered. The ranch. Luke. The men. His words, "I wasn't ready to let you go." Her chest ached sweetly. She stepped outside. Luke was feeding the horses, glancing at her with a nod. No words, just their quiet rhythm. She reached for the water bucket when hooves sounded again. Not men this time, the matron from the boarding house, in a carriage, with 3 girls who'd sent Abigail as a joke. The matron climbed down, face pinched. "Mr. Grayson, I've come to retrieve the girl." Luke crossed his arms. "She's not going anywhere. She was sent temporarily. She belongs at the boarding house. She belongs here." One girl smirked from the carriage. "Come on, Abigail. You've had your fun playing farmhand. Time to come home." Abigail's hands clenched. Home? The boarding house had never been that. "She's staying," Luke said, voice low. The matron stepped closer. "This is irregular. She has duties. She cannot abandon them to play house with you." "Play house?" Luke's eyes flashed. "She's worked harder than anyone I've hired in 5 years. She's earned her place. She's a charity case," the matron snapped. "Her reputation, ours, will be tarnished by living unmarried with a man." Silence hung heavy. Abigail's face burned. The girls giggled. Luke turned to her. "What do you want?" All eyes were on her. Her heart pounded, the stutter threatening. But she looked at Luke, the man who'd given her water, stood beside her, defended her, called her strong. Her voice came steady. "I want to stay." The matron's face reddened. "Absolutely not," Luke cut in. "You sent her here as a joke. To humiliate me. To humiliate her. But I found the only person worth keeping." He turned to Abigail, voice softening. "You're not a joke, Abigail. You never were. And if you'll have me, I'd like you to stay. Not as a worker. As my wife." The world stopped. The girls gasped. The matron sputtered. Abigail stared, tears spilling. You want to marry me?" "I do," Luke said simply. "If you'll have a man who's too angry, too rough around the edges." She laughed through tears. "I will." His face broke into a real smile, the first she'd seen. He opened the gate, took her hand. The matron spluttered. "She has no dowry, no family." "She has me," Luke said firmly. "That's all she needs." To the girls, he added, "You sent her to fail, to be laughed at. But she's the strongest person I've met. I'll be damned if I let you take her back. The matron climbed into the carriage, face tight with fury. This is highly irregular. Good, Luke said. I was never one for regular. The carriage pulled away, the girls silent, their joke turned on its head. Luke and Abigail stood on the porch, his hand in hers. They'll talk, she whispered. Let them, he said. I've got everything I need right here. He pulled her close, his arms gentle. She melted into him, feeling safe for the first time. I never thought anyone would choose me, she whispered. He tilted her chin, wiping her tears with a rough thumb. You weren't sent here as a joke, Abigail. You were sent so I could find you. On the porch of the ranch where she'd arrived trembling, Abigail stood tall, not the fat girl, not the joke, but the woman Luke Grayson refused to let go, the woman he chose, the woman he loved. As the sun rose over Coldwater territory, they stood hand in hand, ready to face whatever came. The joke was on the town. She'd saved him as much as he'd saved her. Together, they were unbreakable. Thank you for coming this far. If this story touched your heart, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city and state in the comments below. Are you from a small town like Dusty Creek or a big city? I read every single comment and love hearing from you. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button.